I am Monica Mast, and today we're going to be talking about the Synoptic Gospels and the overview of Jesus' ministry and the Holy Spirit, and especially the climax of the cross and the resurrection, and how that all is so significant in the life of Christ and in the Synoptic Gospels. So the Synoptic Gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and those three form together to make a similar picture of what the gospel is. John seems to be one that is just kind of out there and doesn't even really fit together, but when you look at the overall picture together, they definitely are needed, all four together, to give the reader and the viewer the knowledge of what the gospel is and why it's so important, and of why it was so different from what they had been expecting to see. Christ brought the upside down kingdom. He didn't bring the victory as the Jewish people had hoped and wanted. They wanted a victor that would bring in the physical realm, a physical kingdom that would defeat the Romans. And Christ had brought a kingdom that was the upside down kingdom, that was completely different from what they had ever expected. They had expected someone to come in and to, like I said, overthrow the Roman kingdom, but Christ came in to serve the outcasts, the poor, the tax collectors, the women, the ones that society looked down upon. That was who he came to serve. And in Matthew 20:28, it says that for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And the top part of the climax, I should say, of the ministry is the cross, and how here, once the life of Christ had come up to the point of the cross, many of the Jewish people had looked at him going, what's going on? Why is the person who's to be our king, who says he is our king, the Messiah, is going to die? Now what? And we are still under their rule. We are still under all of this, but you're not doing what we thought. And it is one of those things that, being a Christ follower and through the Synoptic Gospels, it truly shows us how upside down the kingdom really is. And it shows us that when we do as Christ, because Christ came and Jesus, he gave us the example of how to live, how to love, how to serve those around us. And when we look at all of that, we see how upside down and inside out it seems to be. And so because of that, when the cross and the crucifixion and the resurrection happened, it was backwards from what anyone had ever imagined it would be. And so at the cross, the words written on here's the King of the Jews, it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, and just to show that it was for everyone. It wasn't just for one specific group. It wasn't just for the Jewish people, the Israelites. It wasn't just for them. It was for all people groups. And that through the upside down kingdom, Christ made the gift of salvation available for all, which is shown throughout the Synoptic Gospels, shown throughout the Gospel of John, of how Christ came for the low and down outcasts and the lowest of low people, the ones that wouldn't have been given a second thought. And I really love how one of the first people that seen him after the resurrection was Mary Magdalene, and how she was a woman, and in this time and in this culture, which we always have to look back at to look at the culture and the time period and what it was all about in that context and that reference, and how she was a woman, and he came to her as one of the first people that he's seen afterwards and said, go tell the disciples. And how that Christ still, even after the resurrection and the crucifixion, how he still came to the ones who were seen as less than. And how in everyday life that we are called to be partners with Christ and partners with him, and through the power of the Holy Spirit and the empowerment of the Holy Spirit, that we can be a part of the upside down kingdom, and that we can be a part of spreading this gospel and taking the synoptics out to the world, and the Gospel of John out to the world, and how it is so amazing what all had happened, and what the gift that Christ had given us. Jesus' ministry was just that. It was upside down, inside out, and completely different from what anyone thought it should be. And he came to give us hope and to give us life and to be an example of how to live out the upside down kingdom.